Good morning. How are
Just
you?
a cup of coffee. I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for joining my book club this month and hanging
Oh,
out with me. And
absolutely.
I
Any
really,
excuse to hang out with you. But really, I'm very excited about your book club, so I'm really honored to come on this morning to talk to you.
thank you so much. And I am so excited that as of right now, the show releases in like 6 days. It's
Yep.
so exciting. I can't wait. But yeah, I would love to just jump right in and
Sure.
start at the beginning. Where did you grow up and when did this
Oh,
passion for storytelling develop?
so where I grew up is kind of a trick question. I'm a Navy kid. But I grew up primarily in Connecticut, Washington, D.C., and Virginia Beach. We also lived in Europe. We also lived in California, but I think of that East Coast group most because that's where I spent the most years. Um, my parents were from Rhode Island, and so we still have family there. And my brother now lives outside of Washington, D.C. So he and I kind of consider that home. But I was very fortunate to travel a lot and live a lot of different places when I was growing up. And I think that is part of my storytelling journey because every time we moved, there was an opportunity to tell new stories, learn new stories. I always was like, I'm going to reinvent myself, and that would last a week. Um, but also, my parents were great natural storytellers, but also voracious readers. Took us to the library, took us to the theater, took us to the movies. So it's always been part of my life. And I thought, wow, I wonder if I can do this.
So would you say that you've always been a reader?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My mom taught me to read before I went to school. And so I was one of those annoying kids who ran through the SRA rainbow, if anybody still does SRA, really early. And the teacher would always have to find a new book to give me to keep me out of mischief. Um, and I still, to this day, love the moments that I can grab to curl up with a good book and go visit some far off or nearby place, but through somebody else's eyes.
I absolutely love that. So then, what brought you to LA and drew you to television specifically?
So I thought I was going to be a playwright. I
Mm.
loved theater, did tons of theater all the way through school, went to college, was a theater major, and was preparing based on a lot of MGM musicals to go starve for my art in New York. And some friends who were in the same cohort with me in college moved out here before I did. And one, I will never let her live this down, one infamously said to me, you should come to California and look into film and TV. The weather's better and the money's better. So I came out to visit her and had a wonderful time and but still went back east. Was thinking about going to grad school. Had a lot of things that I was toying with, investigating. Prayed a lot and then told my parents, I think I have to go to California. And my parents said, we hate that you're going to be that far away, but go do what you got to do. So I actually came to LA thinking I would be a feature writer because that seemed the best bridge from playwriting. But I got a day job working at a television production company, and I was like, oh, TV is so cool. So I pivoted into TV. I started in half hour and then moved to hour, and hour is my spot. Hour is where I live. Hour is what I love.
now, currently you're the showrunner of Sweet Magnolias. Can you
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about what a showrunner is, the role and responsibilities?
I my quick answer is always everything's my responsibility, so everything's my fault.
Oh,
Um, but it starts in the writer's room, where, I'm the head writer and I have fabulous writers working with me, but I guide the development of and the writing of the scripts. And then when we come to set with you and your lovely fellow citizens of Serenity, I'm there to monitor the filming, make sure nobody has questions, nobody has problems. If we have to rewrite things for production, for illness, for all the things that come up, I'm there to do that, to consult with the department heads. I'm very, very fortunate, as you know. We have amazing department heads, so I don't have to give them a lot of input. I'm just like, here's the concept. And they bring back gorgeous things. I mean, I always tell our costume department, I live in t-shirts and jeans, so I don't know. You tell me how they should dress. But they always run everything by me, and I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. The same thing with Brian, our DP. I'm like, this should be warm and cozy and velvety and maybe a little golden. And he's like, I got you. Danny, our new production designer, was the same way. I was like, expansive and arresting. Got you. So it's more making sure that everybody is talking to everybody well. I'm first and foremost there to support everybody, but Matt and I work really hard to also make sure everybody has what they need, that everybody's staying on schedule and on budget, which is a big part of it. But also trying to anticipate issues before they become problems.
so you juggle a lot of hats, and you do all of them so well. You make it look so easy, and I'm sure it is far from. Could you share a glimpse into a day in the writer's room?
So, for people who are completely unfamiliar with the process, we have a writer's room, which is a group of writers who come together. And let's say we're starting a new episode on this day that we're looking at. We'll say, okay, this is episode 4 of this season. We know everything we've decided has happened through the end of 3. We usually have a goal halfway through the season, and then we know where we want the season to end, before we get into individual episodes. So a day is very much like, at the very beginning of an episode, what do we think Maddie should do this episode? What should Helen, Dana Sue, Annie, the men, the other teens? We go through character by character and craft scenes that propel the character's emotional life forward. But we're also looking for, well, should these two be in conflict here? Should these two be reconciling here? Are we going to introduce someone new? And what are the repercussions of that? And it's called pitching. You say, hey, maybe in this episode, Annie discovers this thing about a friend, which ties into the theme of the episode because Maddie has also discovered something about one of her friends. And so this episode is about conflicts in friendship. And then how do we best show that? Who should be in the individual scenes? And then as we put the scenes in order, what's the best emotional ramp for the entire episode to get us to that final moment of, wait, what? Next episode, please. So it's a lot of people coming up with ideas, combining ideas, letting ideas go, which is hard sometimes. But also on a show like ours, which is so relationship driven, we actually spend a lot of time talking about things we've been through as people. This happened to me in college, in high school, when I was little last week. So that we're being emotionally authentic. We draw from our own lives a lot, which leads to a lot of laughter, occasionally some tears, but the writer's room is a safe space where everybody knows they can be as emotional as they want to be. And then I'm like, that was so beautiful, and I'm so sorry he hurt you. But can we put that in the show?
That's so funny. But that's so special that you all have that connection. And I'm sure that really just contributes to the family feel that I know I feel on our show and on set. There are 11 books in the book series. Going back to season one, where did you begin when adapting it for TV?
So there's a time gap in between book 3 and book 4. So I read the first 3 books, and I thought, what a beautiful ensemble these 3 women would make. And the timelines in the 3 books, because that's how romance novels work. You start with somebody, and then the second book is about a friend you met in the first book. And so I saw the first 3 books, and Miss Wood agreed, as very much these 3 women, but I wanted to start all their stories at the same time, but not necessarily at the same point. So we took the moments that really stood out for us, as good dramatic tent poles, and then we're like, well, we're gonna slow down this relationship. We're gonna speed up this relationship. But then we also looked at who else do we need to add to Serenity, because TV needs more conflict than romance novels do. And so we added some characters, we tweaked some other characters' relationships. And it was always our goal that if you had not read the books, you couldn't tell what Miss Woods had put in the books and what we had come up with ourselves. And over the seasons, we have added more and more original material, but always in conversation with Miss Woods. She's so supportive. She's so lovely. And I told her at the very beginning, I want to be a good steward of your people. And so it's delightful that she reads every outline, she reads every script. If she has a thought, if she has a question, she lets me know and we talk about it. But so we're still just in the first 3 books and actually haven't gotten all the way to what they cover.
Oh, wow. Well, Sweet Magnolias has connected with people from all over the world, from all walks of life. What do you think it is about the show that resonates so deeply with viewers?
I think it's because I told Dan, our executive producer, when he was interviewing me, this is a story, a testament to the power of female friendship. And I think the fact that our entire show is rooted in the 3 Sweet Magnolias and the strength and resilience of their relationship from the cradle, is something that no matter where you're from, and whether you're lucky enough to have that kind of relationship in your life or whether you're looking for that relationship, it resonates, because the desire to have friends who have your back, is universal. And then we also have the family piece, the Sullivan family, the Townsend family, Helen's search for family, and also universal. So I think because we deal with themes that everybody experiences, everybody can watch.
That makes sense. And it's so beautiful and so heartfelt and tender and all of the wonderful, wonderful things. I'm so excited for this next season. For everyone to see,
You're
you know, like
you
develop.
are awesome in season 4, by the way. I mean, you're awesome every season, but man, you knocked it out of the park in season 4. Mwah.
Thank you. You're gonna make me cry. That's so sweet of you. I really appreciate that. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, spoilers ahead. For all the romance lovers, myself included, can you please take us behind the scenes of Helen and Eric's epic kiss in the rain in episode 5? Please.
Well, we knew that we had asked people to be patient about as long as we could. Um, but we also wanted to honor that both Helen and Eric had things they needed to work out before they could come back together. There's that moment at the end of 3 where you're like, oh, they still care about each other. But their passion for each other is so powerful that they were both in a place of, if I'm going to try this again, I got to get it right this time. So we wanted to show that they were still working things through and were overthinking, that the other relationships that they were in were a little bit of a shield. Like, if I'm with you, then I don't have to think about my true love. And how terrifying it can be to think I've got one more shot and I don't want to blow it. So we wanted to create a space where literally fate drives them together. And in that moment, they have to acknowledge this is real. We got to go for it and we'll see what happens. And I mean, kissing in the rain, you know, Eric in his Mr. Darcy wet white shirt. I mean, we just
It was
wanted to make
fantastic.
sure.
That was one of my favorite scenes this season. It was so great.
Oh, good. Oh, good. We just wanted it to be epic because their relationship is epic. And so when they came together, it needed to, light heaven on fire.
And it did. Oh my gosh. Epic is like the only word I can use to describe the kiss. It was everything I wanted, that we've been waiting for. So you talked before about working with Danny, the production designer in the art department. This season, Sullivan's gets a whole new look and a new name. So how did you work with them to bring Sullivan's and Friends to life?
Well, I told Danny that I was just interested in retaining the spirit of Sullivan's, but making it clear that, well, Sullivan's has been around for a long time, so making it slightly more modern, and also showing that the men had put their stamp on it. Um, and that's really, I said I wanted it sleek and clean and with a touch of tavern, but also a touch of high-end dining. And that's all I said, because I don't know anything. Yeah, I couldn't say, well, this wall and this wall. And Danny came back with drawings that made me weep. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And Danny was really looking at how we could reshape the space for camera, that he put some new angles in, he put some new levels in. So this is one of the things I adore about Danny. He thinks about technique and art at the same time. And then, oh my gosh, the first day when the set was done and Danny was like, "Can you come down and take a look?" Again, I cried. Because it's just so beautiful, and you get that sense of, we're gonna take such good care of you. We're gonna feed you well, but you should also be comfortable. Hang out a little bit, chat with your neighbors, see your friends, wave to your friends in the kitchen. So it's this beautiful balance between absolute comfort, but really sleek, kind of almost elegance.
I need a day in Covington, Georgia, where Danny and the team can come in and make the Mystic Grill look just like Sullivan's, and I get to eat there for real sometime. That is a bucket list dream of mine.
Wouldn't that be
Um,
fun?
it would be so fun. I think a lot of people would agree. But they also did, the whole art department, a fantastic job decorating the spot for Halloween. What was your favorite part of shooting that episode?
Seeing everybody together in costume. I mean, it was just such a great community moment. And yes, set deck and props and everybody did such an amazing job. I mean, I was like, I want a costume and I promise I'll dance in the back, but I just want to be at the party. But I just and one of the reasons we put the party in the show was we wanted to show everybody coming together just to have a good time, because we show people coming together to lift each other up, take care of each other, get through trials. And it was just so nice to go, you know what? We're just going to party. And the fact that Lauren was able to fit you all into the grand foyer, which was a much bigger space in my head when we were writing it. And then she came to me, she goes, you understand how many people you put in this scene? And I was like, is it a problem? I'm sorry. And she said, no, it's just, it might be a little cozier than you would imagined. And I wanted to mention it now. I was like, okay. And we did work on, as you know, splitting some people off into other rooms occasionally to open it back up. But when you all come together and dance, I was just like, this is serenity.
It was, and it was so fun. Those were some really big days. It felt like everyone was there together, and I got to work with people who I don't always work with and get to know them. And the costumes, like you mentioned, were so cute. I wanted to take it home and be my cowgirl for Halloween this year, but I was like, would that spoil something? The team effort that was just such a beautiful display of serenity and the essence of the show. So speaking of, the community and serenity, you've added some new cast members. So Ty and Olivia auditioned Roxanne for their band. And I remember there being a really cool story behind finding Elena Geraldo for the role.
So Matt Drake, in addition to being the co-EP and a brilliant physical producer and directing and Matt's a musician, and he plays drums, he plays some other instruments, but I know he's a drummer. So he had very particular thoughts about the actors who could drum that we were auditioning. And he said, you know what? Maybe we need to look at drummers who might be able to act. And he actually found her on Instagram and reached out and talked to her folks because she was in school. She had to talk to her professors and get the time off to come down. And we were like, we promise one day. And she was amazing. She was fun. I was really impressed by her acting performance, but man, her drumming, yeah, Matt found a jewel for us.
She was fantastic. That was so cool to sit on the couch and just watch her play for the day. That was fantastic. And when is Matt going to make his cameo?
Well, we're working on that. One of
Yeah.
these days, I hope.
I feel like he's been hiding that he's this incredible musician all this time. I was so
Well,
shocked.
I keep pushing him to at least play at a wrap party. So maybe if we are lucky enough to get another season, we start with that, and then we find a way to put him on the show.
I love it. I love it. That would be so fun. Also, I wanted to talk about Jodie Benson and Judith Ivy. I'm so excited they joined the cast this season.
Yeah. What a duo. And then you pair them with Carolyn Lagerfeld and, what an amazing trio. Yeah, I was so blown away that both of them were interested, that both of them said yes, and the depth and the warmth and the complexity that they bring to their roles was just gorgeous to watch. I've been a big fan of both of them for eons. And so it was really exciting to welcome them to Serenity. It's yeah, quite a lineup this season.
Yeah, oh my gosh. That was the coolest thing this season. Well, I'd say it's on the list of coolest things. I think my number one has kind of like this long list of favorites that just continue to go, that it doesn't even reach number two. Everything is just number one of all the coolest things this season.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. This season is cool. Period.
Period. That's end of it. In episode 8, the teens organized and held this peaceful protest to save the Serenity Public Library. Back to book club. Can you speak to the importance of reading and literature, and supporting your community's public library?
Absolutely. We wanted um, Kyle as the arts kid to expand his view of art and stand up for literature. I know, as I already mentioned to you, I started as a reader and then became a writer. And I remember my college, excuse me, my college advisor saying it is a writer's responsibility to be well read. And frankly, we are in a moment in culture where people are banning, dismissing, um, yeah, um, trying to control books for all the wrong reasons. And we wanted to stand up for voices that need to be heard, for freedom of press and publishing, but also freedom to stand up and say, this is what I believe, and this is what is important to me, and have your neighbors hear you and respond. And so we thought that centering uh, multiple storylines this season around the fight to protect the library, because libraries are underfunded and under siege. Apart from what's going on in bookstores with book banning, I mean, they're pulling books out of public libraries and schools, and most of them are great books, and everybody should have the opportunity to read great books and decide for themselves what they mean. And I think a lot of book banning comes from fear, and misunderstanding what the books are really about. And it just seemed like the right kind of issue for Maddie having become an author and Kyle being an actor who appreciates that somebody wrote all his lines for him, coming together to support a cause that shows when a town is struggling financially, like Serenity is in season 4, that the choices you make on what to protect and what to sideline for the moment shape the future of the town.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I had a conversation with a friend, this is a couple weeks ago, but we were just talking about how reading makes people so much more empathetic because, you're constantly putting yourself into other people's shoes and learning about new perspectives. And It's so important. So thank you for that. Thank you for including that in the show, and giving that a highlight because I agree and I love that. So thank you.
Oh,
Um,
it was our pleasure.
so what are three words to describe this season?
Epic,
Yes.
um, heartfelt, and joyful.
I love it. I love it. I know three words is so hard to take all that it is and just condense it into three, but that I think that was perfect.
And if you could tell, I was debating my three right up until the moment you asked. I was like,
Oh,
wait, but there's four and there's five and there's six, you know.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, then what do you hope that the audience takes away from this season?
I hope that they take away hope. We're living in a really fractured world, and I think that people who believe in loving their neighbors, taking care of their neighbors, trying to do their best, but also helping other people do their best, are the people who are going to lead us through these fractured times. So we talk a lot in the writer's room and on set, but also in the scripts about light and hope, because I believe that's what sustains us, especially in difficult times.
I love it. I love that. I love our show. I feel like I say that so much, but I love it.
Thank
What
you.
is No, thank you. Oh my gosh, I could say that so much too. From any of the seasons, what would you say is one of your favorite Sweet Magnolias memories?
So I think about this a lot because people ask me a lot. And, I can point to particular moments with, you and your friends, or the three Magnolias, or the guys playing basketball, or I mean, it's so hard to choose. So I actually wanted to share a behind the scenes moment, which is we were shooting in Covington, and as it does in Georgia, it just started to pour. And there was lightning, which means we have to shut down all of the equipment, get all the actors and crew to safety, and figure out, because multiple somebodies are watching the radar. And I was in my car. Mary Lou Belli, who was directing that episode, was in her car. And Al, who was our line producer that season, was in his car so that we made more room in the vans for all of you. And we're watching the lightning roll through and the time get longer and longer. And I sat in the car with Sarah, my assistant, and hand wrote a new version of a scene that we would be able to shoot the next day without making the next day go over time, so that we could release the minors on time that night and capture the one scene that was all adults as soon as the rain stopped. And I was on the phone with Mary Lou, and then on the phone with Al, and then they were on the phone with each other. And then I was calling Matt, and then I was calling Cam, and everybody was talking to each other. And it's one of my favorite moments because everybody, God bless you all, gets to see how beautiful all the actors work together in front of the camera. But I just want people to understand how behind the camera, there are marvelously talented people who, the minute something comes up, come to me and go, how can I help? And we all roll up our sleeves together, and we do everything we can to make sure that you all have the space to do your great work without worrying about any of the logistics, while we're like Santa's elves in the back going, wait, but if we move this until Thursday and we move this here, everything will still be fine. So um, I do love you and Lily and Cece on the swings this season more than I can say. Thank all three of you. But again, just wanted to offer a behind the scenes glimpse.
I love filming that scene too with the three girls. I think that was such a special development for us this season. But I think that that story that you just shared is such a testament to the incredible showrunner that you are and why you wear all the hats. Because I mean, to rewrite a whole scene and know it's going to be the next day, and gather everybody and support them and be like, we're gonna do this, it's gonna be fine, like this was unexpected rain, it's gonna be great. And then also, the grace and the what is the word I'm looking for, the cheers that you give to the whole crew and the way that you
Well,
uplift them all.
because none of us do this by ourselves, right? I could write the scene, but Mary Lou still had to direct it, and Al still had to approve all the crew changes to make it happen, and clear the location, which was something we like created out of thin air. And so none of us work by ourselves. We work together for the show, no matter what side of the camera we're on. And that's my favorite thing about TV.
Oh, that's so much. And that's so sweet. And that memory, I feel like I remember a few moments where we've had to change because of that Georgia rain, move things around.
Absolutely.
And it's incredible how you all just pick it back up and you're like, we're gonna do this and this, and it's gonna be great, and we're gonna stay on
But
schedule. And
and again, it's because like Cam and Matt are brilliant, and they'll come 2 days early and go, weather doesn't look good. Let's talk. So we're not reacting. I mean, sometimes Georgia rain, we react in the moment because a storm comes out of nowhere, but they're watching the weather every day and far out so that we can make a decision. And Cam will say, I think we should go back to stage because it's going to rain, later tonight, but if we go back to stage now, then we'll be there for 2 days. And so we'll be sure to miss the rain, that kind of thing. So again, it's an incredible team.
it absolutely is. Thinking about the rain, I remember this past season, I believe it was, at our Serenity Sunday, where we all packed inside your home to hang out and continue in the Serenity Sunday fashion. But so every filming season, you host for the cast and crew these monthly meetings called Serenity Sunday. On top of, running a whole show, you dedicate time to fostering the dreams of others. You're so incredibly generous with your wisdom, and I can't thank you enough for those days and all that you've taught me during those Sundays. I think it's a beautiful show of the person that you are and how wonderful you are to all of us. And lucky for everyone, you also teach screenwriting workshops and classes throughout the year. So I wanted to know, where can viewers find your next class?
Because of our Sweet Magnolias schedule, I primarily teach through a fabulous group called the Greenhouse, and greenhouseproductions.com. And we were, of course, virtual for a long time, but we're getting back into in-person. And again, because of my limited time, that's the group that I'm focusing on teaching for. But they have other teachers and other subjects. I teach writing workshops, as do other people, but there are actors, musicians, lawyers. They actually do a tax workshop every year for the particular tax issues that creatives have. And people who are in LA should take advantage of, they have a coffee meetup in Burbank. I think it's the third Saturday of every month. But they are very much about community. My friend Shun Lee, who runs the group, believes in coming together as creatives to boost each other, which is the same thing that we do in Serenity Sunday. I mean, you could be in a scene next to somebody and not realize that they also want to direct or design or whatever else. And that's what Serenity Sundays are for too, so that everybody gets to show the other facets of their talents when you rarely have time on set to do that.
That is very true. And that's so, I can't express enough generous of you to host all of us on your weekends, especially Serenity Sundays, in the midst of all that is filming and that busyness. And that's so fantastic about Greenhouse and how they do tax workshops. I had no idea. I think that's so important and so fabulous. So thank you for sharing that. And I've taken one of your workshops virtually through them, and I can't recommend it enough. So I think that everyone should be on the lookout for your next one. You have so much experience and you have such an interesting career that I think so many people can learn from. Not only, how are you in TV, but you also are a novelist. You're the author of the Molly Forrester mysteries. Can you tell us a little bit about those books?
They are light comic uh romance meets mystery. I think my book agent proposed them as Sex and the City meets Murder, She Wrote.
Ooh.
So they are very early 2000s, conspicuous consumption, New York frivolity with murder. And they were great fun to write. It was exercising a different set of muscles. And it was interesting, again, having been a reader my whole life, to stop and think about how TV has shaped my writing and then go back to a completely different form, a completely different format, and think, well, no, there are things about writing a novel that I can take advantage of. I can, well, not I can, I need to describe the whole room, because going back to Danny, I just say, a cozy room with several chairs, and Danny and the art department and everybody else do their magic. But in a novel, it's like, it was a lovely room with a thick, cushy you have to get into all the details that I fortunately get to depend on other people to do in TV. But there's also the interior thoughts in a novel that we don't do in TV. So it was fascinating to to speak in a different language.
That's so interesting to think about that those differences already between writing a novel and writing for TV. How I know that this probably isn't a super brief thing, but how does the process of writing it differ for writing for TV? What are some of the other differences?
So I have had the opportunity to talk to some novelists who are like, I figure it out as I go. And I'm like, because I've been writing TV for so long, I'm like, I have to have an outline. So I'm pretty sure novelists have all kinds of different processes, but when we're doing an episode of TV, we talk about breaking the story, which is breaking it into the individual scenes and how an episode's going to work. I broke the novels. I outlined them like it was a series of episodes because I've just been writing TV so long. The idea of writing something without an outline made me break out in hives. But I think it's really, and also in TV, you have to write an outline because it has to go to the network platform, whoever you're working for them to look at and go, well, actually, could you do that later? And can you do this earlier? So it's collaborative. And you're not turning that into anybody when you're writing a novel. So you have the freedom to discover your own process. I've just kind of locked into the TV process and found a way to overlay it onto the novel process.
That's so cool. Are you currently writing or have any plans to write another novel?
Oh, I always have plans to write a novel. I'm just very, very fortunate that I haven't had time
That is,
because I kind of eat, sleep, and breathe Sweet Magnolias, which is a joy and a privilege. But yeah, I got a novel or two back here somewhere.
ooh, well, we have the Molly Forrester mysteries until then. So I will devour those first. But so I just have a couple other quick questions. What is your favorite independent bookstore?
I have two,
Ooh.
and it will not surprise you at all that they're both in Culver City, California, because they are Village Well and the Ripped Bodice. And I love the people who work there. I love the depth and thought of the thoughtfulness of the selections. And I love that they're both community places that, have readings and signings and really encourage readers to meet each other, connect with each other, and share with each other.
I love both of those places. I am very familiar with both. I second everything you said. Um, and so what is your favorite book of all time?
Oh man, I am so glad you told me in advance that you were going to ask me this because I came up with about 114 answers. Um, but I tried to narrow it down, and it's cheating a little bit because it's a collection. But the book I think encompasses most of what I'm rooted in as a writer, um, is, and the minute I say this, I'm going to be, but there's also Ray Bradbury, um, is the collected works of Dorothy Parker. She was a poet and a short story writer and a journalist in New York in the early 20th century. Had a reputation for being a savage but brilliant wit. She was part of the Algonquin table. And my mother introduced me to her work when I was in middle school, and I just devoured it. And her sense of humor, her economy with words, and her power with the perfectly chosen last line of a poem or a short story, which also makes me think of Ernest Hemingway, but I tried to narrow it down. I just think she is probably the most formative woman in my writing journey, so I wanted to highlight her here.
That's beautiful. I know that was such a hard question. Oh, I don't even know. I was thinking about it when you said that. I was like, I don't even know what I would say right now. So I totally understand, but that's so beautiful. And I'm gonna check those out too. What are you currently reading right now and loving?
I just started, actually, if I may, um, Jen DeLuca's new book.
Yeah.
Haunted Ever After, little romance, little ghost, a little tropical splendor. I love Jen. I'm a huge fan of her Well Met series. And so I was very excited I mean, I'm having to read it a bit at a time because of work, but and then the next book will be, we went to the signing together, Maureen Lee Linker's His Girl Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I have a to be read stack by my bed that's about this tall, but um I fortunately worked my way to Jen's book, and then Maureen's will be next.
I love Jen DeLuca. Sarah introduced me to her only a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
Fabulous, fabulous. I hope you enjoy Haunted Ever After. And I'm also really excited to read His Girl Hollywood. That's also on my very tall TBR stack. It's I'm making my way there. But I guess, my last question for you right now, not forever, but right now, would be what advice would you give to aspiring writers?
write and read and listen. I think it's really important to write every day, and to push yourself so that everything you write is better than the piece that came before it. That, like Dr. Catron told me, it is a writer's obligation to be well read, that you, in exposing yourself to experiences you haven't had, points of view that you don't have, cultures you haven't had an opportunity to delve into, you become, I will say, a better writer, a better reader, and a better person. And then listen to how people talk, listen to when people don't talk, listen to the variations of language that the people around you use, as well as what you're seeing in the books. Um, and then think critically about all of it and learn to apply it to your own work, and understand it is not a short journey. So a little dose of patience is good too.
I love it. I love it. I love you. Thank
I
you
love
so,
you too.
so much for joining me today and for everything that you've shared. I mean, it's been such an honor to work with you, and I hope we continue for the rest of eternity.
I
I
would
just
love
appreciate
that.
it so much.
Oh,
Thank
I love you. I love your talent. I love what you're doing with your book club. So it's been an honor and a privilege. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is so special and it meant so much to me. You know, you have a long Friday ahead of you. So thank you also for spending your morning with me
Oh
chatting about
no, that's I'm so excited to have a reason. I mean, not that we need a reason, but a reason to talk to you about all of these things. So thank you very much.
I really appreciate you. And I will talk to you very, very soon.
You
So
got it. Okay.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.